I hope that this is continuing to be something that is beneficial to you. And today, one of the lessons that I wanted to talk about is do you actually know the truth? Do you actually know the truth that is going to let you have the freedom to be yourself? Now, there's a lot of ways to really look at this, and one of the things that I've learned is that guess what? Your emotions are going to lie to you. Your emotions are all over the place. And within all of that, it becomes really, really difficult to know the actions that you end up taking, are they the real thing that's going to get you what you want? And for a lot of us, it's you sit there and you're like, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I know that this is the right thing for me. And then when you start to understand that, hey, sometimes that the thing that drove you, that perspective, that thought, that thing that made you choose to do what you're doing and go at it in the direction that you're going, what if it was actually based in a lie? Now, I'm not saying that we all have to deal with lying to ourselves because there's elements of that that we all have. But what I am going to be saying is that sometimes one of the hardest perspectives of life is when you realize when truth becomes a part of what you're walking into, it could completely change the understanding of the routes and the paths that you took. One thing that I can tell you is that the marketplace will not lie. So you're going to get compensated a percentage of whatever value that you bring to the marketplace. But many of us are in certain segments of the marketplace based on our vocation and our skill set. But if you leave that vocation, that does not mean that that value is going to transfer at the same rate as the way that you left. So maybe at a certain job, you're getting compensated this, and when you leave that industry and you come to this industry, your compensation is here. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have the knowledge, the skill, the abilities to actually get that back in line with where you believe you can be compensated. But it is important for us to understand that the marketplace will pay you according to the value that you bring to it, based on whatever route, vocation, or skill set that you're using. The other thing that's really interesting about that is that some of us may realize that when you are in one area, maybe you got overly compensated. When you go to another area, maybe you realize that you were undercompensated. But it all ends up playing itself out. Truth is always the leveler. And sometimes you have to be very honest with yourself about understanding what's of real value to you. Some people like to chase the title, some people like to chase the money, some people like to chase the notoriety, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, the last thing you want to do is realize that you've spent all this time working towards how other people see you, only to realize that you're alone or that it was all for nothing. I really had to look in the last year at where am I going and why am I going there? It was interesting. I had a conversation with two different people today, and that conversation revolved around how they were worried about how people were perceiving them in the way that they were going after their business goals. And they had a deep-seated belief that the way that they were doing it and the reasons why they were doing it were valid. But people were putting these thoughts into their minds like, hey, that's not how we do this. Why would you do it this way? That's in violation of this unspoken, unwritten rule or code or conduct. And the question that we started to ponder, and it came from something I read a long time ago. I wish I could directly get back to the source, but it was like, there's a crazy statistic that says that at your funeral, a large percentage of people will join the actual funeral, right? The service. But that unusually high number of people will opt out of going to the gravesite based on something as simple as the weather. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's raining, whatever it is. And so when you start to begin to understand that you're building a life and that business that you're in is helping build that life, you have to start saying to yourself, am I creating a life that has decisions being made to cater to the 75% that the weather could be the thing that determines whether or not they want to continue to pay homage to my life? Or are you building around the 25% that are going to be there through the entire process? They're going to wish they had more time to be with you. And so that's what I mean by getting down to truths. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Am I happy with the philosophies that are guiding me to do that? Am I unwavering in the way that I am dedicated to my family, my faith, and all these different things? And I call it alignment because when you don't have alignment, and the way that I think about it is alignment in who I am in business, who I am in my family and community, who I am in my faith and philosophies that guide me. When you don't have alignment, collisions start to occur. And those collisions are usually where the truth of what you're trying to do meets some other thing and they collide and you have to deal with them. Thank you for your time. As always, looking forward to continually getting you more, but I hope you're enjoying.